Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Bold and the Beautiful, BNB, spoilers for Friday, December 5th show that Steffy Forrester Finnegan, Jacqueline MacInnes Wood, will confess to John Finnegan, Tanner Novlin, while Eric Forrester's John McCook health raises concerns. Ridge Forrester, Torsten K., has just turned down Eric's desire to make a comeback as a co-designer because he believes the job would be too much for his father. Eric is angry because he wants to work with Ridge on another couture collection, but his son's lack of support is a stumbling block. On Friday's BNB episode, there will be additional questions about Eric's health. Eric suffered a horrible disease that almost killed him, so no one wants to watch him deteriorate. Several personalities will express their concerns about Eric overdoing it and the health problems that could result. Everyone appears to want to bubble wrap Eric, but he knows himself and believes that returning to professional design would be best for him. Steffy will make a confession during a serious talk with Finn. During this conversation, the focus will shift to Eric, prompting Steffy to express how much she loves and feels connected to her grandfather. Of course, Steffy will be eternally grateful to Finn for developing a cure that could save Eric's life. Now the goal is to keep Eric healthy and available to his family for as long as feasible. Steffy won't know what she'd do without Eric, so she'll tell Finn about it and hope her grandfather lives for many more years. Steffy should get updates on Eric and Ridge's father-son turmoil in the upcoming episodes. That may inspire Steffy to take up for her family's sake and try to help the two of them reach an agreement. Although Steffy adores Eric and shares her concerns about his health, she may also understand his need to contribute to the firm he founded. According to the Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, Ridge Forrester, Torsten K., will once again drive Eric Forrester out of Forrester Creations on Thursday, December 4th. Eric wants to rejoin the design team in order to alleviate Ridge's workload. Despite my best efforts to persuade Ridge, he continued to refuse. Ridge Forrester walks away. Ridge reminds Eric of his final line, which nearly killed him. Ridge isn't about to let Eric put himself in danger again. Ridge is in control, and he is content to take the responsibility and burden of his role. Ridge receives a message and just walks away from Eric, effectively stopping their chat, despite the fact that Eric was still speaking. Eric is heartbroken as he watches everyone go about their day. Out with the old, in with the new. Eric muses to himself. Eric did not want to leave. Eric hasn't put down his drawing pencil. However, no one is giving Eric a say in the situation. Donna Logan, Jennifer Garais, is also failing to make progress. Donna says he'll be a designer till his dying day. Eric Forrester packs up his things in the front office. Eric begins sifting through his belongings as if he's about to pack them up and give up. However, Eric may have another plan in mind. In 2024, McCook told Soaps.com, "I'll work till they haul me out of here. I silently celebrate every day that I have this job. It's enjoyable, it's creative, and I enjoy working with the folks. After my lovely wife and amazing children, the next thing I'm grateful for is this profession and the work that I'm lucky enough to be able to accomplish." McCook goes on to say, "I joke that one day they'll have to call my wife and say, 'Come get him,' because I have no reason to quit working till I can't remember lines or have a physical constraint." With that said, perhaps Eric will launch a new fashion house to compete with Forrester Creations. So, Eric, will you offer Ridge some genuine competition? Ridge may believe he is doing the right thing, but this is plainly not what Eric wants. Eric could certainly persuade a few designers to abandon ship and join his new firm. Will Eric eventually prove to Ridge that he has not designed his last project and provide him with some much-needed competition? Stay tuned to see what happens. The hospital corridors smelled like disinfectant and burnt coffee. Steffy Forrester stood outside the ICU's glass doors, arms wrapped around herself, as if the cashmere sweater could hold her together. Inside, Eric Forrester lay behind a castle of tubes and wires, his chest rising and falling in mechanical time. The man who had built an empire thread by thread was now bound to machinery that beeped like restless metronomes, ticking down the final moments of his life. Finn appeared at her side silently, like he always did when he sensed her whirling. His white coat was crumpled from too many hours on duty, but his gaze remained steady. "You don't have to do this alone," he stated calmly. Steffi's laughter crackled like brittle ice. "Finn, I'm not doing this with anyone anymore. That's the problem." She looked at him, mascara smeared but defiance burning brighter than fear. "I need to tell you something." Finn furrowed his brow. He reached for her hand, but she moved back, palms up, as if yielding. "Please, just listen." She inhaled deeply, causing her ribs to ache. "Luna is not RJ's daughter. She's yours." The words rang out in the antiseptic hallway. Finn's face became slack, and his color drained until he was as pale as the walls. "What have you just said?" Steffi's voice trembled, but didn't break. "You were weeping that night at the guest house, following Caroline's funeral reception. I was grieving. We were both intoxicated on sadness and tequila. It just happened once, Finn. One stupid, irresponsible moment. I discovered I was pregnant shortly after you and I reconciled, and I told everyone, including you, that it happened later. I lied. For years." Finn staggered back till his shoulders hit the wall. "Luna is your daughter." He did not speak. He could not. The beeping from Eric's monitors appeared to get louder, as if the machines were scandalized. Steffi rushed on, her words flowing out like blood from a reopened wound. "I was terrified. You were still hurting from losing Caroline and believed you'd never be a father. And I didn't want to be the one who trapped you. So I told myself it was nicer to let you believe the time frame was hazy. Then Luna was born, and she had your eyes, and every day I saw you stare at her and not understand." Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry, Finn. I'm so sorry." He stared at her, as if he were viewing a stranger with his wife's face. "All these years," he muttered. "I didn't realize she was mine until I carried her on my shoulders at birthday parties, Christmas mornings, and other occasions." Steffi grabbed for him again, but he flinched. The rejection stung more than any smack. "I was going to tell you," she admitted. "I promise I was." But then Eric fainted and everything. "Eric," Finn yelled, turning toward the ICU doors. "Does he know?" Steffi's quiet was sufficient. Finn laughed once, making a hollow, broken sound. "Of course he knows. That is why he asked for me. Not Ridge. Not Brooke. Me." His eyes welled up, but no tears fell. They simply sat there, accusing. "He's dying, and his final act is to force you to come clean because he knew you'd never do it on your own." Before Steffi could answer, the doors flew open and a nurse entered. "Dr. Finnegan, your grandfather is awake. He is asking for you." Finn glanced at Steffi one final time, the devastation in his eyes sharper than any knife he'd ever wielded. Then he passed through the doors, not looking back. The lights in the ICU were dimmed to a bruised violet. Eric lay braced against pillows, appearing impossibly little beneath the blankets. His eyes, still piercing Forrester blue, found Finn instantly. "Close the door," Eric said. Finn obeyed, his hand shaking. When he turned back, Eric extended a feeble hand, beckoning him closer. "I don't have much time," Eric muttered, his words strained. "Listen carefully," Finn said, pulling the chair closer and taking Eric's hand. The skin was paper thin, with veins like dark rivers beneath. "I've known about Luna for years," Eric said. "I saw the paternity test that Steffi had hidden in the safe behind my desk. I thought about telling you 1,000 times, but it was not my place. This was hers. And yours." Finn's throat worked silently. Eric gripped his fingers with surprising force. "But now, I'm leaving, and I will not allow my great-granddaughter to grow up with lies like my children did. The way I allowed them." His eyes glistened. "You're her father, John Finnegan. In every manner that matters, you had been for years. Don't allow my granddaughter's cowardice steal another day from either of you." Finn's eyes welled up with tears, which fell into their linked hands. "Is she really mine?" "She's got your obstinate chin," Eric replied with a half-smile. "And your crazy loyalty. She is yours, son." Finn lowered his head, his shoulders quivering with quiet cries. Eric led him to wail for a time before tugging gently to refocus his attention. There's more. Finn lifted his face, swiping his eyes. More? Eric's stare became furious despite his infirmity. The company. Forrester Creations. I'm changing my will. Today. You and Luna will have complete control over everything, including the majority share and final say. Jointly. Ridge will oppose it. Steffi will scream. Brooke will shed beautiful tears on every chat show from here to Paris. But it's over. Finn recoiled. Eric, I'm a doctor, not. You're a Forrester. Eric interrupted, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. Whether you like it or not. And Luna represents the future. Not hope for the future. Not Ridge's ego. Not Steffi's guilt. Luna. He coughed, producing a wet, rattling sound that caused the monitors to spike. Promise me that you'll protect her. From each of them. Finn clenched his jaw. I promise. Eric's eyelids closed briefly, exhausted. When he opened them again, they appeared unusually bright. One last thing. Anything. Forgive Steffi. Eric's voice trembled. She was 24, afraid, and attempting to keep the entire world together with shaky hands. She believed she was protecting you. Luna's safety is my priority. She was wrong, God, was she wrong? But she's still the girl who waited by your bedside after you were shot and refused to leave until you opened your eyes. She smiled like a ghost. She loves you so much that she lied for years in the hopes of lessening your pain. That's not nothing. Finn turned aside, perplexed. Eric tightened his grip again. I've made every mistake a man can make in his life. Affairs. Lies. I lost my children because I allowed pride to take over. Do not add to the tally. Hate the sin, son. Love the sinner anyway. It's the only way any of us will survive this family. The monitors started beeping faster. Nurses raced in, but Eric waved them away with amazing strength. Not yet, he grumbled. I'm not done, he said, turning back to Finn. Tell Luna that her great-grandfather loved her so much that he burned down the entire empire to ensure her safety after my death. Tell her you are proud of the woman she is becoming. Tell her. His voice broke utterly. Tell her I'm sorry I won't be attending her wedding. I wanted to dance with her. Finn could not talk through the lump in his throat, so he merely nodded. Eric's gaze returned to his for the final time. You're a finer man than any of us, Finn. Thank you for loving my family even though we didn't deserve it. The monitors cried. Nurses shoved Finn aside as they worked feverishly, chest compressions, epinephrine, and defibrillator paddles charging with a menacing whine. Finn remained transfixed as the team shouted numbers and codes. Clear. Eric's body arched from the bed. Again. And again. Until, finally, the doctor in charge looked at the clock and dialed it. The time of death was 1947. Finn dropped into the chair, staring at Eric's hand, which was still held toward him as if reaching for one final handshake. A nurse softly closed Eric's eyelids. Outside the glass, Steffi observed the entire scenario. When the doctor emerged, shaking his head, she slid down the wall and sat on the chilly floor, knees to chest, quiet sobs spilling. Finn emerged minutes later, face blank with horror. He stared down at her for a long time. He's gone, he replied simply. Steffi simply nodded, unable to respond. Finn crouched in front of her. His voice was rough. He knew Steffi. He's renowned for many years. And in his final moments, he did not curse you. He did not anger. He asked me to forgive you. Steffi uttered a sad cry. Finn reached out gently, almost scared she'd disappear if he moved too quickly, and wiped a tear from her face with his thumb. I don't know how to do that yet, he said. But I told him I'd try. For Luna. For him. His hand fell. Steffi gazed up at him, her eyes bulging. And maybe for us. Luna deserves her father, Finn said. All of him. No more secrets. He stood up and extended his hand. Come on. Let's go tell our daughter the truth together. Steffi looked at his outstretched palm, as if it would burn her. Then, with shaking fingers, she accepted it. They walked down the corridor together, carrying the weight of years of deceit and one man's last wish. Behind them, the machines in Eric's chamber finally fell silent. A 14-year-old girl waited in the chapel downstairs, lighting candle after candle for her grandfather, who had slipped her additional sketches into her portfolio and told her she drew like an angel. She had no idea that everything in her life was about to change. But as she looked up and saw her parents striding toward her, their faces drenched with tears but their fingers tightly linked, she knew, deep down, that whatever happened, they'd face it together. The actual sort. The sort Eric Forrester had spent his entire life attempting, and sometimes failing, to develop. The kind worth destroying empires to protect. And when Luna approached, Finn extended his arms, and for the first time in her life, she went into the embrace of the father who had always been hers, even when no one dared to say it out. In the silence of the hospital chapel, with candlelight flickering across three faces that finally belonged solely to each other, Eric Forrester's final words echoed not as a scandal to break a legacy. He had claimed that he loved them enough to speak the truth, even if it meant destroying himself. They were destroyed. Eric's final words echoed in the space between memory and reality, long after the gathering had quieted. No one expected him to talk so clearly, especially after weeks of bewilderment, abrupt breakdowns, and unpredictable medical readings that left even the specialists baffled. For so long, his health had been a source of concern for the family. Hope one day, fear the next. But that afternoon, as the sky dimmed behind the curtains and the monitors hummed in a frantic cadence, Eric opened his eyes with surprising clarity and revealed things no one had expected. Finn had been the first to respond, but even he couldn't hide the horror on his face. As a doctor, he was used to unanticipated fluctuations in consciousness, but as a family member who had come to care for Eric in ways that crossed professional lines, he felt the world move beneath him. Steffi stood behind him, her hand quivering in his, her gaze fixed on the frail elder whose speech had broken through all of their preconceptions. Eric had requested everyone save the two of them to leave. His tone had been soft, almost tranquil, but with the weight of something tremendous. And when he finally spoke, truly spoke, without hesitation, without the fog that had hung over him for weeks, the realization hit him like an earthquake. The truth wasn't just painful. It was heartbreaking, changing every memory, relationship, and piece of family history they had previously considered unshakable. After the confession, Eric fell back asleep, his breathing faint but steady. Steffi and Finn had not moved. Not in minutes. Not for 1 hour. They had stood in the same location, each attempting to arrange the confusion inside their brains. Steffi finally broke the quiet. "What shall we do now?" she muttered, as if frightened her voice would awaken him. Finn did not respond at first. His gaze stayed fixated on the sleeping figure in the hospital bed, while his mind raced through layers of professional responsibility, moral conflict, and personal feeling. He dropped himself gently onto the chair next to the bed, breathing as if the confession were still in his lungs. "I don't know," he finally replied. "We should think carefully. Steffi, this changes everything. Everything." She slumped into the seat next to him, putting her hands beneath her chin. She resembled a lady desperately attempting to hold herself together as every aspect of her life threatened to disintegrate. Eric's revelations were difficult for her to digest. It wasn't merely a buried story or a forgotten secret. It was a new reality, one that changed who she was, who her family was, and who she could rely on. She sat in silence for a long, listening to the faint beeping of the monitors that tracked the man who had shaped her entire life. It wasn't just the worry of losing him. It was the fear of what he'd left behind. Finn turned to her and placed a steadying hand on her back. "We'll navigate this together," he added softly. "But we need to see the whole picture." He provided a significant amount, but there are gaps. There must be more context. Steffi agreed, but her mind had already wandered, reliving her grandfather's words in search of significance. Something in her chest tightened. It wasn't simply dread or sadness. Something like betrayal. Something like sympathy. Something resembling anguish for a truth she had never realized she was missing. Hours have passed. The sky outside darkened, and the city lights flickered on like a constellation made of windows and streetlights. The hospital became quieter, with halls nearly vacant. Finn checked the monitors, scrawled on Eric's chart, and made a few phone calls to ensure that no unexpected developments went unreported. But his mind kept returning to the confession. Finally, Steffi stood and headed to the window. Her mirror looked back at her, troubled, weary, and doubtful. She touched the cold glass and muttered, "Why now? Why, after all this time?" Finn joined her and carefully tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Maybe he knew he didn't have long," he claimed. "Maybe he couldn't leave without telling you the truth." She swallowed hard. "But the truth breaks everything." "Not everything," Finn corrected him. "Just what you thought you knew." He returned his gaze to the hospital bed, at the man who had served as both the anchor and architect of so much in their lives. Eric had always been larger than life, commanding, visionary, and impossible to dismiss. And today, despite his weakening health, his words might shake the ground beneath them. Steffi's voice quivered. Did he ever consider how this would affect us? How would that affect how we perceive him? How do we see ourselves? Finn exhaled. I believe he fought with it for a long time. Secrets do not remain secret because people are proud of them. People are terrified, therefore they keep concealed. Steffi pressed her forehead against the window. I can't even imagine how the rest of the family will react when they find out. Finn nodded. Maybe we shouldn't tell them yet. She raised her head. We can't keep something like this to ourselves. No, he told me. We can wait till we have a better understanding of it. Until we are certain he will not wake up tomorrow and contradict all he has said. Brain states such as his can lead to bursts of lucidity. Sometimes confusion returns even faster.